Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 6 of the Army Nerd Podcast. Today we're going to be continuing our series on how to introduce your friends to Warhammer 40,000. And previously we discussed how to introduce them to the gaming aspect with, starter scenarios that are both simple yet complex enough to give the full gambit of the game's core mechanics. Today now we're going to talk about the lore and how to introduce someone to the background story of Warhammer 40k and where I think would be a good spot to introduce a new person to the universe. So there's lots of different medium, and right now I would say we're kind of in a golden age of lore for Warhammer 40k. Not so much in the direction the story is going, more in the direction that Games Workshop is pushing the lore into more and more different genres and different mediums. We've seen the advent of Warhammer Horror, with various horror stories on audiobooks / audio dramas. We've seen the incoming, animations, whether they're computer generated or drawn, or if I'm not mistaken, I do believe there's a pseudo live action one as well. And we have all the various audiobooks as well as the final books in the Horus Heresy coming out, which is very exciting. So first we're going to start talking about books and how I was personally introduced into the hobby. So what I recommend is starting with the Horus Heresy. Now I understand that is not strictly Warhammer 40k, it's Warhammer 30k, but it's how I was introduced and really got me, just because of the depth of the story and how good the writing was. And so a friend of mine who actually was just like me, right when I first was introduced to 40k, it was by a colleague of mine, actually a boss. He was my commander, and I was not very appreciative of the models and the game. I didn't think it was for me, and now I'm like wholeheartedly invested. I have hundreds of miniatures, love to play. And what really got me was another friend of mine, 2 years after I first found out what 40k was, telling me about the story. Just kind of walking me through an overview of what the story was and recommending, hey, check out the first Horus Heresy book. Check out Horus Rising. It's pretty well written. I think you'll enjoy it. And I did. So I bought Horus Rising, read it, loved it, immediately went into the next two books, False Gods and A Galaxy in Flames. And I did the same thing for a buddy, I was telling him about it. I was like, hey man, I think you're big into sci-fi. You like this kind of stuff. I think this is something you'll enjoy. And he read the first two Horus Heresy books, got to the third one, and as I look back, and we actually got together and made a reading list based on mostly going in chronological order, right? Like we're military guys, we like timelines, and so we wanted everything kind of in order, taking into account some of the story arcs to keep them together, just for continuity of that one story arc. So I'll go through the first 10 books in our reading order, and then I'll post the rest of it. It gets you all the way up to the Siege of Terra. Now, I will say, we don't include every book, right? There's some books that we consider fillers. If anybody watches anime, like if you watched Naruto, there's, hundreds of episodes, and also hundreds of filler episodes that do nothing to progress the storyline or just kind of chaff. And so we are there with the intent of, reading everything relevant and getting to the Siege of Terra. And that's what this reading list was designed to do. So we skip some books that we think aren't relevant. We stay mostly in chronological order, but we do depart from that in order to maintain some story arc integrity. So the first three books are the first three Horus Heresy books: Horus Rising, False God, Galaxy in Flames. This is where we had a point of contention. I recommend going to the First Heretic next. He recommends doing Flight of the Eisentstein next. Really doesn't matter either way. I like going to the First Heretic first as the fourth book and doing Eisentstein as the fifth book, just because the amount of demons or warp activity you kind of see in the Eisentstein, it's easier to understand after you've seen the First Heretic and kind of gotten that backstory into it. So, really up to you, shooter's preference, what you want to do there. After those, on the sixth book, you're at Legion. Really good introduction to the Alpha Legion and their motivations. One of my favorite Horus Heresy books. I've read it twice now. It's really, really good. Following that, No Fear and Betrayer, just going in chronological order. Then Descent of Angels and Fallen Angels. Love these two together. I actually read them apart. I did Descent of Angels and then read a couple books, got into Fallen Angels. This was before we had made this reading list. I wish I had read them back to back. It gives you a lot more continuity in the story if you keep them together. And then finally we'll go into 1,000 Suns and Prospero Burns. Really like this reading order. As someone who read them in the opposite order, I read Prospero Burns followed by 1,000 Suns. Actually, Prospero Burns was the fourth book I read. I did, the first 3 Horus Heresy books, the First Heretic, and then I did Prospero Burns, just because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of just stumbling around in the dark. It looked like a good book, picked it up. But after having read both books, I would definitely want to read 1,000 Suns first, and then see it from the Space Wolf side. So for those of you who don't know, these books are both based around, the Siege of Prospero, bringing Magnus to heel. And 1,000 Suns is based off of the perspective of the 1,000 Suns and Magnus, and Prospero Burns is based off the perspective of Leman Russ and the Space Wolves. So you're really getting the same story, but it's coming from 2 different angles, and it's really well done. So that's the first 10 books. We can go on to continue listing out all the books and the order we think you should read them to get into Horus Heresy. So why I think Horus Heresy is a good starter point to get someone interested is the storytelling is just very good. There is rich, deep stories that are waiting to be told from that universe, from that timeline. And the amount of effort that was put in those books, it shows. It's just good writing, in my opinion. For some people who disagree, who say that, that's 30K, it's not a good way to start 40K. If I had to pick a 40K reading list, I would start with the Eisenhorn series. Big fan of the Eisenhorn series. It's regular people, it's not Space Marines. Just very good storylines. So, if you're someone who, doesn't like Horus Heresy, doesn't think that's the way to go, the other thing I would recommend is starting with the Eisenhorn series, because they're very good. Another aspect, while we're on the topic, for going from books, audiobooks are kind of the exact same thing, right? You can either read these or listen to an audiobook. But now audio dramas, if you haven't heard any of the Black Library audio dramas, I've heard a lot of them are bad. I have listened to all of the Garo audio dramas and loved every single one of them. I wouldn't use them as a starting point, just because specifically the ones that I listened to were the Garo storyline, and a lot of that you kind of need to know the background. If I was going to listen to them, I would first read the first 3 Horus Heresy books and read Flight of the Eisentstein. And chronologically, that's where the Garo story arc begins anyway, so that's perfect, right? So if you want to mix those in with your reading, I would do the first 4 books, Horus Heresy, books 1 through 4, and then go into the Garo audio dramas. I thought they were very well done. The sound effects added a lot to it. Some people disagree. The other audio drama that I listened to was both Perdition's Flame and I think it's No Way Out. They're 2 of the Warhammer horror audio dramas. Very well done. Very well done. The sound effects were very good. The story was engaging. I would highly recommend. Finally, the next medium to kind of introduce the lore would be, videos or films. Now, I haven't seen any of I know there's like a Warhammer Ultramarines movie. Haven't seen that. Haven't heard good reviews. What I would do is the Warhammer 9th edition trailer with the Sisters of Battle and Space Marines against the Necrons is an outstanding work of art. So that is one of the first things I show you guys when I'm trying to get them interested. It's very engaging. It's not long. It's like 4 minutes. That is a good avenue. And following that, I would recommend the Astartes fan-made videos that are on YouTube. If you as a fan have never seen those, do yourself a favor and immediately go to YouTube and look up Astartes. It's like parts 1 through 5. The guy who made those did an outstanding job. and he was even picked up by Warhammer or by Games Workshop. So Games Workshop has now hired him to continue his work with them. So if you imagine what that guy was able to do by himself at home, now with a team at Games Workshop and some real money behind him, I'm very excited to see where that story kind of takes off from. So I hope this helps. Those are the methods that I've used in the past. It's gotten a couple people interested. Actually, this past weekend, I had a guy, I kind of explained him the story a little bit. He seemed real interested. He's a big sci-fi guy, and I sent him, I actually bought him a copy of Horus Rising, because I was like, hey man, you like sci-fi, you like to read, check this book out, let me see how it goes. So I'll report back, see how it went with him. Maybe he's going to become a big gamer, maybe not. But either way, it's all about trying to expand the hobby and get people interested in participating, right? Because the more people we have, the more fun it is. You get people interested, you get more gamers, and you get more people that kind of understand where you're coming from. So this has been the Army Nerd. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know comments in the comment section below. Let me know if you agree, disagree with kind of what we talked about on how to get people started. And if you want to support the channel, please like and subscribe to videos. And if you want to buy anything on Amazon, use our Amazon Associates link. It really helps support the channel at no cost to you. And that's been me. I'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, this is Army Nerd. We are RTV time now.